Welcome to Building the Dream, a podcast brought to you by Aura Surfaces. Today, I'm sat with Steve. Now, Steve has a very interesting story and is the founder of ShowerKAP. Now, I'm not going to tell you too much about it because I want you to listen to the episode, but this is very, very important topic that we're dealing with at the moment. So without further ado, welcome Steve Harding, the founder of ShowerKAP, to Building the Dream. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing very well, Ash.
Good. I want to start with a couple of things. The conversation, why water? The hard-hitting truth is South East Water recently pumped 680 million litres in a single day, and they still couldn't meet the demand. That's nearly 1 billion litres more in just 2 weeks compared to June 2022. Why do you think people are still unaware that water scarcity is no longer a distant problem? It's here and in the UK.
That's quite difficult because up until 3-4 years ago, I wasn't aware of the problem. There's a lot of stuff that comes out on, don't run your tap when you clean your teeth. Don't do this, don't do that. But that's been around for a long time. And nobody's really talking about how big the problem is.
Yeah.
Why is that? I don't know. I possibly because it's a blame game. If water companies say, we've got to save X, everyone else says, yeah, but you're wasting Y. So it's a really difficult one because nobody wants to point a finger.
And I feel this in a lot of areas of the world we live in. Everybody's finding someone to blame instead of all coming together and solving a problem.
Yeah, I think that's true of everything that's going on at the moment. We're going through this whole cycle of what they call, this circular economy, if you want to put it like that. We've had a throwaway society for quite a few years now. And I think people are starting to take notice of that. Even white good manufacturers have to manufacture things that can be repaired now, where they weren't. Because people understand we haven't got a finite resource. They're digging minerals out of the ground. Well, what happens when there's no more? So you've got all of that side of it, and people are doing this, but nobody's really thinking about water, and there's only one water. You've got various sources of energy. Yeah. You've got various things you can adapt to. We've only got one water. And I think what's really happened is we've got out of sync with nature, basically. We're using more than the system is replenishing.
We're seeing a massive building boom, 71,000 new homes every year in the southeast alone, all needing water. How realistic do you feel it is to keep relying on the old reservoirs and the leaky pipes?
No one can build in the southeast or Cambridge or anything without water neutrality. The builders need water credits to build. Yet there's not enough being done to address use. So how do you get those credits? Because it's local. It's not like carbon credits, which can be greenwashed. You can sell those to someone who's over expending a load of carbon, and that's global. It floats around the world. It's global. Water is very local. You draw it from the reservoirs. You draw it from underground, from the aquifers, and it's finite. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So you can't build 71,000 houses a year, but we can't supply them.
Yeah.
What's coming out from the government recently is by 2055, we're going to be X many billion litres a day in deficit. When actually it's happening now. Why aren't they saying that? Why aren't they saying we might have to turn your taps off?
Yeah.
I don't know. This comes back to this sort of, they're frightened too, because if they say something, it's almost politics. They don't want to say something because somebody else will come back and fire another one at them. Yeah. And it'll just be this button ball of who's to blame.
Yeah. Again, pointing the finger.
Pointing the finger.
Keir Starmer's, I don't really want to get into politics.
No, I try and skirt that.
But, some of the posts he's saying about we've got to build this many houses, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. But they're not talking about the infrastructure. And that's not just down to the roads and the schools and the doctor's surgeries and stuff. That is down to the water and where we get it from.
It's the water, and I think the more pressing, and I'm starting to raise the awareness of what happens to that water once you've used it, once it's gone down the drain, because it goes to the treatment plants and they can't cope.
Yeah.
So our rivers and our seas are getting discharge of raw sewage.
Yeah.
And it's not just when it rains, it's happening almost daily.
Yeah.
And that's just because of the way we're now using and consuming water, wasting it effectively.
Yeah.
And it all ends up there. You don't realise it's an issue because you don't associate it with it. You don't associate that everything goes down the plug hole, everything goes down your drain, ends up at the treatment plant. And it's just not separating the water from the mucky stuff. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's not just building a reservoir, because they've got to build massive treatment plants to cope with the sewage.
Yeah.
So where's that been spoken about? And who wants that in their backyard?
It's all good and well promising these things, but you need a real plan of how you're going to achieve that. But another question, or it's sort of a fact, but showering and bathing account for 36% of water used in the home and 26.6% of household energy. They're huge numbers. What do you think, anybody listening to this now, is the top 3 things that they should do to do their bit to help save water? What would you say? Obviously, teenagers in the shower spending 25 minutes. I've got one.
Yeah.
My 7-year-old daughter said she was watching me brush my teeth, and you're going to hate me for this. Daddy, when you're brushing, turn the tap off until you need it again. And she's 7. So that's quite good. That's quite good. Not good on my part, but good on her part. So what do you think? What's the top 3 things that people could be doing to help do their bit?
I think, the shower is one of the big ones. Toilets also, understanding what is the short and what is the long flush. Because up until I did this, and recently until I put the ShowerKAP monitoring system in my home, my kids, young adults, they're not kids, thought the 2 buttons were just aesthetic. They didn't know that the little one used half as much water as the big one. So there's little things like that. And toilet flushing, if you have a wee, just don't flush it. It doesn't have to be flushed away.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing that I was amazed at, and because it's not measured, is that showers, especially if you've got a pressurised water system, you're using up to 15 litres a minute down the shower. So, 10 minutes, 150 litres. It's huge volumes of water.
Yeah.
So people with this fantasy of, don't have a bath, have a shower. Yeah, fine. Have a 3-minute shower or a 4-minute shower. That's good. But have a 10-minute shower, you should have had a bath.
Yeah.
Because there's not an association. And because we haven't got any way of measuring that, it's become almost a norm. Massive, great big shower heads and these high-pressure shower systems, they're all driven by the major brands. Yeah. We can do it bigger, better, faster,
Faster, more water.
More water. And even if you go into these pressurised hot water systems, I mean, I'm naming names, but, Megaflow, that says it all, doesn't it? I mean, it can supply
a lot of water.
Amount of water, and
it's not even pressure, is it? It's the volume of water they're providing.
Yeah, but it's the volume.
Yeah.
And then, flipping off of that, combi boilers, they have improved so much over the last 20 years, whereas they used to not really supply a decent amount of water. Now they can.
Yeah.
And it's estimated, because you can't actually get stats on it, but over 1 million are put in a year. So that's 1 million combi boilers. That's 1 million systems that never run out of hot water.
Yeah.
So the teenager could sit in a shower for 40 minutes and it would never run out.
Never run out, yeah.
So we've lost that association with, I don't know, I suppose, how precious it is.
Well, and that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Because I remember when you had the hot water cylinder and the thing, right, all 4 of us need to shower. Everybody's you've got to limit it, otherwise someone's having a cold shower.
Yeah.
And you have to have that cold shower to realise, oh shit, everybody needs to, right, next time I'm not going to have a 10-minute shower because everyone's got to use it, and I was last. And that's a good point, actually. That's a very valid point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, this is what's happened. It's the availability. It's almost You just don't think about it because it's just this resource that comes out. It's hot water just flows.
Yeah.
And there's no thought process.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not saying it's anyone's fault because I'm as guilty as anybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the way things have evolved in, you know,
Yeah.
in the richer countries in the developed world. Totally different if you go, you know, to a
third world country, yeah, and they're really savouring every bit of drinking water that they can get.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at it, there's some stats. I don't do stats very well. I don't retain stats. I tend to do more of the overview, and I try and drill down to where the core problem is.
Yeah.
But, you know, we use, I think it's roughly about 150 litres per head. It might be 145 per head in the UK per day. America, 257.
Really?
Third world country, 4 litres.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just water, it's everything. We're over-consuming everything. You know, the richer countries are consuming more than the earth can produce in a shorter space of time. I did a leadership piece a little while ago, and the UK hit their yearly consumption sometime back a few weeks ago. Now, everything from then on, you're drawing resource out of the ground or out the earth, which should be there for future. So all the time you're consuming more than it can give back. It's a one-way ticket. You know, we just, you know, it doesn't take Einstein to work out what the end result's going to be.
Yeah. It's and I go back to being a kid and going to Ardingly Reservoir, which is obviously our beautiful place. Yeah. And I think in all those times, we used to have a dog, so we used to go there quite a lot. And I remember one summer, it was bare. It was really, and there was only one summer as a kid. Now we've had nice weather for the last few weeks, and there's talks of hosepipe bans because they're running out of water. Is that down to, do you think, is that down to a mixture of a multitude of things, whereas we're using a hell of a lot more, but also we're not retaining it, and like you said, we're not recycling it, we're not repurposing it. We've got an extra 50,000 houses built over the last few years. Is it just a mixture of everything put together?
Yeah, I think it's a compounding effect. I mean, I think, you know, again, we don't want to blame anybody. No. But obviously what you're not seeing is also the water table under the ground. You know, we're depleting that. We're not depleting it in the UK as much as other countries are. But, you know, you've got the surface water, and then you've got your aquifers underneath, which are being depleted as well. So that's hidden. And I think there's this combination of things. Nobody's got an overview of no one's joining the dots. Nobody's taking responsibility in joining the dots. And you get governments in, and they're in for whatever their term, but there's no continuity when it comes to something like this. So everybody has their own opinion, that was. But it's something that they should be able to look at and project and go, we can't supply this unless we do this, this and this. But actually, what I'm saying and what I'm advocating and what we've got to do as humanity is actually to reduce what we're using. We don't need to be using that much water. Yeah. We only need 3 or 4 litres a day to survive. It's not a need. So you've got to remove need from greed. Everyone's got to be a bit mindful about what they're doing. Yeah. And the same with water consumption. You know, why just having something there to remind you that actually, oh yeah, I've hit my target. You know, I've done what I was doing. Yeah. And actually bring it home. Yeah. And I think that's across the board. I mean, I'm not going to save the world by saving water, but it's a step.
It's a step, and you can do. I feel that and we'll dig into ShowerKAP in a minute, but I feel that what you've done with ShowerKAP is educating. It's about educating people on the little things that you can do to do your part to help and save.
Yeah, I think going back to when I renovated the property, which you helped with, you know, we put the tiles and everything in there. We put an ensuite on the 2 girls' bedrooms. So teenage girls, 2 en suites. You know, we had family bathroom for servicing 1.5 kids, and then we had our bathroom. So you're providing a means, in effect, to compound the problem. And we were using in our property, averaging 800 litres a day. Now, to me, that was extortionate. But when you think there was 5 of us, potentially 5.5, because my other daughter was coming in. When you break that down, it's actually not too bad. But I thought it was horrendous. And before I even thought about ShowerKAP and before the pandemic, I was checking our meter to see if it was running when no one was at home, to see if I had a leak. Now, we'd replaced all of the feeds into a house, so we shouldn't have had a leak. And we didn't have a leak, so we were using that. So next thing I did, got up in the loft, and I put little restrictor valves on all of the shower outlets, and I choked them down a bit. And it didn't make a great deal of difference.
No. It
didn't make a great deal of difference. And this is the only tool available to the hotels, the universities and all that. But what they're doing is they're choking the delivery. So they're restricting the flow to choke delivery. And that's great. If you go from 10 litres to 8 litres, theoretically you save 20%.
Yeah.
But that's only true if that person then stays in that shower for the same length of time. If you've now made it harder to wash your hair out, for argument's sake, get the soap out of it, and you stay in there for another 10 minutes, actually you've used more water.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to measure that at the moment. And that was something else that I was keen to do, is to try and say, look, if you can't change something unless you can measure it, if you can measure it, you can actually appreciate what you're doing. And you're right, it's about education, it's about enlightening people. I was at an event in London, actually. I was on a panel and I met a really interesting lady over lunch. We were just standing there talking. And then she came, a family were from India. They were in a remote part, no running water. And she remembers as a child, before she went to school, the thing she had to do is to go to a well and collect water for the day. So that's obviously donkeys years ago. They've moved to the UK, as is her family, but her husband's family is still there. And we were just talking, and she was really interested. And she was saying, I really love a long shower. I said, but when I go home, they have a bowl on the floor, and that's what everyone has to use to wash and everything like that. And she said, but you get there and you adapt. Yeah. And she doesn't think twice about it. She just does it and you adapt. And I think it is coming back to availability. It's opulence. It's there, and it's just accepted it's there. So going to having a standpipe or something like that for a few weeks, and then it raining and everything. Oh yeah, everything's hunky-dory again now. And everyone just go back to their normal way. It's nature. It's just a natural thing to do. And even she said, I'd never thought about that.
Yeah.
I never thought, why am I accepting that I can have a long shower here? Yeah. Yeah, I completely accept when I go home, I've just got a bowl of water on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to actually get your head around that. What I'm trying to do is supply some tools to enable people to actually think about that and understand that that's what it is, you know. But it's a big shift because it's not been done before. No one's ever measured water like we're measuring water.
Yeah. And that's a perfect opportunity to talk about the birth of ShowerKAP.
Yeah. Well, I said from the realisation that we're using 800 litres a day, averaging, water's not expensive. Water's really cheap. No matter, they put it up 30%. It's really cheap. Considering without it you die. Yeah, it's really cheap. It's a must-have, which is why it's cheap, because it's in Ireland they don't charge. I think they've just started to bring that in. Yeah, don't charge for water because they believe it's a basic human need. So we had that. So during the pandemic, we were stuck at home as everyone was, all the kids back from uni and what have you, and just listening to torrents of water above our kitchen area because we've got 2 showers sitting above those, and going on for ages and ages. And you start to realise, you know, it was annoying, but also we were having cold showers, and we've got a tank which we've got to have 300 litres of hot water in that tank. You know, that's a lot of water. And one, you know, my oldest stepdaughter, she's awful. She would be in there. And, you know, if anyone wants to take any credit for ShowerKAP, it's Freya, because she got me on this. And we were banging on the wall. My wife was up there banging out, get out of the shower, you know. And she'd run out of hot water and she'd come out quite sheepishly. So I'm thinking, okay, psychologically, what can I do? How can I do something which actually makes people not turn it off, not turn it cold, because some people would do that as a parent. You go in and shut off a hot, and all of a sudden you just blast a cold water on someone, and all you're going to do is create mayhem.
Yeah.
So you're trying to think of how can we go back? Because you can't take stuff away from people. We can't go, right, we're going to have a tin bath in the kitchen and we're all going to share that once a week. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll put an outside toilet. Yeah. Now you'll realise how precious things are. Yeah. So you can't revert back to how it was. But you're trying to think, well, how can we do something? And I was thinking, if I could simulate that, if I could simulate the effect of them running out of water before it actually did run out, psychologically they're going to come out a bit sheepish because I've used all the hot water. Yeah. And it's a very gradual fade. So it's not as though you can't finish what you're doing. And even at the end of a fade, the temperature is still only about 35, 34 degrees. So it's not cold. Yeah. You know, you could carry on showering if you wanted to, but you wouldn't stay.
You wouldn't, because it's not,
No, so and that's really where my sort of thought process went. And it took a couple of years after that, 22. But I said to Nicola and my wife, I said, you know, I've got this idea. And
so had this been playing on your mind?
Yeah, but I've been rolling and rolling with it, trying to think, how can you turn back the clock? How can we? I had no clue, but it was 70% from mid-80s to now. Yeah, you know, an uplift of water use, and there are multiple reasons for that. But you know, predominantly, I knew it had gone up because I knew as a child we never used that much. Yeah, so. You know that's happening, and if that's happening in my home, that's happening everywhere. And it wasn't until I put the painting in, because I couldn't talk to anybody. Nicola knew about it. None of the kids knew about it. So I had to then do some sketches, come up with a means of doing it. Yeah. Luckily from my background, because that's what I do. I'm an engineer. So I sort of came up with an idea. I was thinking, well, how can I control this? And I was thinking about lights on a car, you know, dipped, and you can adjust them. So it's a stepper motor. So I'm thinking, okay, if I put a stepper motor on, I can count the steps, and I can control the movement. So I came up with a theory, wrote the scope, sent it to a patent attorney, and we came up with a patent, and we put it in, and we did searches, global searches, and I was really quite surprised that nobody had come up with a controlled depletion of hot water over time. Yeah, there's some systems out there that do step depletions. They just sort of turn off a valve and it'll drop. So it's quite a rapid drop. Or there's another one out there that will squirt cold water at you, but it'll carry on. Yeah. So
there's like a warning, I guess. Right, you've been in the shower now for 4 minutes.
Yeah, and you just squirt a bit of cold water on you, so you get a shock, but then it would revert back and carry on. Yeah. You know, there's other things out there. You know, egg timers on the wall and things like that. Anything which hasn't got a sensory nudge, to be perfectly honest, it doesn't. If it worked, we wouldn't be where we are. Yeah. If anyone had come up with something that worked, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The issue we're faced with now is you need it everywhere. Yeah. It's how do you scale this thing to make that difference? And the other factor that I had with Freya, she was at uni, and she confessed, once I knew the patent was in and I could talk to someone, I spoke to her about it, and I said why I came up with this idea, and it was her that instilled it. I sort of said to her, do you go, is the shower a safe place for you? And she said no, but once she's in there, she's cocooned. She doesn't want to come out. It's a sensory thing.
Yeah.
It's safety. Your door's locked. You're in there. So basically, again, stay in there until, you use all the hot water up. And she said she was doing that at uni.
Yeah.
She had a little ensuite in her room. And she would literally sit or stand in the shower until it ran out of water.
Yeah.
Which got me thinking, because if that's the case, and we've got a system which is mapping everybody, and we put it on data collection so you can see trades, actually you could identify potential vulnerable young adults. So then you've got the opportunity for that institution to put some safeguarding in, to actually go and talk to those kids. Because I had a long chat with Surrey University, and they're looking at putting this in. And it's shocking when they're putting in what they call jail showers. They're putting in these showers that don't have a shower head protruding. It's embedded in the actual thing. And it's shocking when they're doing that, so the student hasn't got anywhere to hang themselves.
Wow.
And the government won't issue statistics on how many suicides happen in universities.
Jesus.
But yet they're putting this stuff in to prevent that from happening in that environment.
So it's as much of a problem that the universities are having to step in, but no one knows about it.
No one knows about it. They won't issue statistics on it. Safeguarding was another major thing that I feel that the system offers, that sort of environment, plus saving, a shed load of money. So there was a lot of emotive reasons behind it as well. And it's evolved from there, really.
Yeah. So from my knowledge, ShowerKAP is a valve, and it's also linked to an application. So is that right?
It started off just being a bit of a shower valve.
Yeah.
That was the mechanical way, a cheap way of me gaining control of a hot water feed to a shower. So it's a thermostatic controlled shower, and the hot water is mixed in that thermostatic controlled shower with cold, and you've got an output. So for argument's sake, say the output temperature is 40 degrees. So that's happening at the shower head. Our intervention is downstream of that, and all we're doing is it's just a mixer valve effectively, but we're controlling it because we've got sensors, so flow meters and thermocouples linked with that, so we can then control the temperature of the water then feeding into the hot. So after a length of time, whichever set, either off a mobile app, or we will take control of that hot water temperature and we'll bring it down to about 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And then after that, we don't know what the output temperature of our shower is because we don't know what they've got it set to, but we know it's not going to be a lot more than 40, 42 degrees. So we start delivering hot water to that shower, thermostatic controlled shower at that temperature.
Yeah.
And then once we reach the shower time, whether it's 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever it might be, very gradually we start to reduce that hot water temperature. And it's over about 40 seconds, and it's only dropping by sort of half a degree a time. It's very gradual.
Yeah.
And it just fades it. And that's the valve. On the patent, I patented the depletion of hot water over time. So if you were Aqualisa or anybody else with a digital shower, you could do this.
Yeah.
But they'd have to license it because I've patented the actual fade, not the valve. I haven't patented a valve. The valve is a valve. Anyone could take that valve, reverse engineer it, make a little change, and they've got that. It's not the valve I've patented. It's the fade.
Okay.
So we've got that. But when I started looking at that, and we started looking at the control of it, to put it in a big building, you'd need this sort of what I'd call smart box, and it needs to talk to all the others. So you've got a hotel with 200 rooms. You'd have 200 of these devices, and then each one effectively has got a smart meter. And they're all talking to each other, and then they're sending that information up to the cloud. So if you got control like that, you thought, well, we'll just put a sensor, so a flow meter and a thermocouple on hot, total hot in, total cold in. So now, not only have we got control of the shower, we know all the water that goes into that room.
Yeah.
And we can identify a short flush, long flush toilet. We can identify a bath. We can identify a sink. So you've now got a full mapping of what's going on. Now, ethically, you go, you can't really be watching someone, in their bathroom. So we lag that an hour. We don't provide that information to anyone who's monitoring life.
Yeah.
But what you're able to do then is we can get statistics off, and it will say what the ratio of long flush to short flush toilets are.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed at how much more water is used. And the ratio should be probably 4-1, if I'm being honest. But they're not.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you can start putting little nudges in the room, whatever they're saying, you realise. And then if people start to adopt that, then you can start putting some figures back in. Say, with your help, you realise we've saved 1,000 litres a week or whatever it might be. So you can start engaging with people. And I think that's really the key is not education. It's just information. It's allowing someone to feel good about it. Brilliant. We're doing the right thing here.
Yeah. I guess as well with sustainability in everything, such a key thing at the moment. Sustainable energy, sustainable plastics. We can't have plastic straws, etc. We got to be sustainable. This should be taken as seriously as that.
I think my hope is, and this was always my hope, is that if we can put this into universities, we can gamify it. Because Colorado State University did a marketing campaign on our kit, on what we were doing, and they canvassed everybody there, and it was, I don't really want you to monitor or change my shower, but what do I get out of it? And if you can reverse it, so you give people something back. So if they want a mobile app or whatever, and you've got a target to say, if you can maintain this level of use per day, over a week you'll get a QR code which says you can go into, your local McDonald's or whoever, or coffee shop and get a free coffee. It gives something back. And so they're getting something for it. Because the thing is with universities, the students aren't paying for that water. They're paying for their rooms.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive. But then that's true of anyone living within somebody else's home. There's no incentive financially for them to do it.
Yeah.
And even then, when you think financial sort of incentives, the bill comes in once a year. You can forget about it till the next one comes in. You think, oh, geez, really?
Yeah.
So it's trying to work out a way of engaging, but in a friendly way.
Yeah, yeah.
And not imposing something on somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, that's the hope. The hope is that once you do that and you engage with those young adults, they remember it. But also, if they start thinking about water, maybe they'll start thinking about other things.
Yeah.
But it's happening. This resale of old clothes and all this recycling. It's not. It's about using things. It's about It's always this adage, isn't it? One person's waste is somebody else's.
Yeah.
So I think we just got to get back into this thing again. Don't just throw stuff away because somebody else will want that.
Do you think it's important to give this information that you've got? Do you think it's important to give this to the younger generation? Do you think it's really important? And that's what I sort of see with this is I would be quite interested to know how much water is being used. Not to turn it off, not to say we can't shower if you need to wash your hair and you've got a lot of hair and you want to wash it and condition it, etc. You might need slightly longer. But I'm actually really interested to see, I would be very interested to understand what is using the water and why our bill should be double what they recommend the average should be. And that's information that I'd quite like to know.
I think you do what I did. If you got a meter out on the road, when no one's at home, you go out and watch that meter, and if it's moving, you got a leak.
Yeah.
But there's always that. Your first thought is there must be a leak. I can't, and that's a leak past your meter. So it's between your house and you. They want to roll out smart meters. This is what the government believe is going to make a big difference, is to roll out smart metering. And in a way, potentially some people might. But then a lot of us have already got smart electric meters. But mine's in my garage. I don't look at it because I can't, we've all got LED lights now. We've all, the reduction on energy use has come down a lot. And it's...
But the bills haven't.
Funny enough, my bills are predominantly a lot, especially in the winter months, is heating water.
Yeah.
Because we've done all the things, all the lights are LEDs, we're not drawing off a huge amount on anything else. So there is this big thing. But yeah, you're right. We've got to come up with an app, with a mobile app, which gives back.
Yeah.
No one's going to download an app just to have a control of a shower. It's got to be something. Ultimately, the ultimate would be that's got your credentials. That's your water footprint on that app. So if you go anywhere that's got a ShowerKAP system, whether it be the gym, whether it be hotels around the world, or whether it be whatever you're doing, if you can go somewhere like that and you just they know it's you, instantly it adopts your credentials. So it will set you shower time to what you want, the fade profile to what you want.
Yeah.
And also then you're getting those credits, you're getting that feedback.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate goal. But we're talking a long way down the line. Even if we can scale this to death and we can have subs around the world and we can be producing in multiple regions, which is what we want to do, it's going to take a long time to get there.
A long time and a lot of money, I'd imagine. A lot of money.
Yeah, well,
But it's something that it is something that, like, I feel it's very, very important. From having a conversation before we film this, from having conversations, from doing this research, to be able to have this conversation with you and not be like, so Steve, what's water to you, kind of thing. Like, it opened my eyes massively. I believe you piloted this in hotels and a few homes. What are the kind of results that you've seen in terms of litre saves, energy saving? Because obviously I think there's a big stat that the majority, like you just said, the majority of carbon and energy bills is for heating water. And have you seen any behavioural shifts? Obviously you trialled it in your own home. Did you see a big behavioural shift with your daughters, with the people using it?
Right. We have got it trialling at the moment in a hotel. I'll move on to that in a minute because the big one that we've had is in my home. We put the system in its infancy. So I think it was beginning of 24. We got it in January, got it working, but didn't use it for engaging on the showers. It was really there for a trial to just test out the meshing because all the devices mesh to each other.
Yeah.
So we were testing that and uplift to the cloud, and we were looking at data, the data consumption and all that. So we were looking at all those stats, but we were monitoring what was going on. So you were seeing these trends. From what we were doing, our shower outputs were 12 litres. So, over a period of time, I thought, okay, I'm going to buy new shower heads because choking them down doesn't work because you've got a big shower head. If you reduce the flow to it, it blocks all the pores. It comes out and it's not, you lose the pressure. So buy a slightly smaller head and you still get that feel of pressure. So you buy a shower head which says, this delivers 8 litres. When you put it on your system, and because you've got a pressurised system and you're delivering that volume of water, no, it doesn't. So that's another good thing about measuring it, because you go, no, it doesn't. So you still have to use a bit of a choking to actually get it down to a roughly about the 9 litres. So we did that, and then introduced the app. We had a test flight, so gave the app to, especially for the oldest one, because she was still using a colossal amount of water. And so to her, this is happening. My wife and I were away, so it was only the kids were at home, and the water usage went up. It's almost like, cats away, mice on float. Yeah. And, which is bizarre when I know damn well we're monitoring it. So it's like really weird. But they're saying, okay, look, you're here, you're working. I'll give you 80 litres free per day. Yeah. After that, for every litre, I'm going to charge you 3 pence. Now, a bottle of water a litre is 30p. So it was a tenth, but it was just this really small monetary value. Yeah. And I said, you can adopt the app. So anyway, set the app.
Yeah.
And from that time on, her shower times, well, actually, she saved 25% on reduction of the shower output. And then, but she was another 25% on time. So it's almost a 50% saving in her water and energy use just by adopting what we've got.
Yeah.
And then overall, and the sort of the thing that really hit home, I've got our previous water bill. So 3 years running, prior to this being adopted in, average was 700 litres, and it was pretty constant. It was up and down, maybe 695, but it's 700 litres a day. Since everyone's adopted what we've got at home and they've set the shower times and everything's, hunky-dory, it's gone from that down to 500. We save 30% water and energy costs just by, and they're not restricted massively, 5-6 minutes, still decent long shower times, not 4 minutes, which is government aim.
Yeah.
But also I think there's an awareness.
Yeah.
So it's not just saying, should we have a bath? Should we, do I really need to have a shower? Or if I have a shower, to have a quick one.
Yeah.
So I think there's more to it than just, we've restricted your shower time, so we've saved 30%, but we have saved. So we're now down to sub 500 litres a day.
Yeah.
And we haven't changed.
Everyone's still clean.
Everyone's the same people at home. So nothing's changed apart from what we've done.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest stat. And that's when I sat them down, when the bill came through, because I was waiting for it, it came through. And we're over dinner, and I just said, this is what's happening. And they said, but we haven't done anything. And that's literally what they said, but we haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Yes, you have. You've completely changed your habit.
Yeah.
And they couldn't, that was that realisation. But Liam, younger one, he said, we can't relate water. We can't relate litres. We don't know what it is. So I went and bought 96 litres of bottled water and stacked them in the shower. I said, that's a 9-minute shower.
Yeah.
And took some pictures of that. But there's no correlation between that. And I think I've started to use weight.
Okay.
Because water's sold by cubic metre, which again, people don't understand, but that weighs a tonne. Yeah. It's a tonne in weight of water. Yeah. So maybe, is tonnage more? I don't know where the correlation is, but that was the biggest, revelation, where they just, but we've done this and I called it by stealth. You've done this by stealth.
Yeah. You've
just put this in. It's now become an accepted norm. You get this general fade. But Freya's guys, has set hers at 7 minutes, but she might still spend 8 minutes in the shower because you don't have to evacuate the shower straight away.
Yeah. It's not like doing an ice bucket challenge.
No.
You're 5 minutes up. You've got ice bucket challenge coming.
There's no Wim Hof, whatever his name is. So just doing that. With the hotel, we've recently put a pilot or project into Sandman Signature in Crawley Gatwick, and we've got a floor there. So we've got the third floor. They always stuck from the ground upwards. Yeah. So we've got quite good occupancy rates. They were very anti-engaging with the guests. They wanted it for the data collection. They wanted to see what was going on and all that sort of thing. And being an older building, it was quite a task to get these in. The way it works in hotels is between each room in a hallway, you get like a cupboard, and it's called a riser. And in that riser, you've got all the pipe work and you've got the electrics. So that's where we put our kit. So we don't have to get into a room. We don't disturb anything in a room. We don't rip a wall down. You put the kit in the riser in the hallway. Yeah. And in a modern hotel, it would be quite easy. They should have shut-off valves so they can isolate each room. So if they get a problem, they can just isolate that room with a little lever valve. Isolate that. Chopping of the pipe works, quite a simple plumbing job to put the stuff in, electrical feed, and you're away. Their buildings are older than that, so there was a bit more work to be done, but their guys did it. They came down from Sheffield, they got their own team. And it took longer than we'd liked. We wanted it in January. We didn't get it until I think it was the end of April, May time. But the interesting thing was that we could see the mapping of the building, because once you've got, it's almost like you're seeing that building come alive. It's like the blood, it's flowing. So you can see temperature, you can see all these things. So straight away, although we only had 20 rooms out of 152, we could see traits, we could see issues of water delivery. I mean, these risers should rotate their water. So they flow round and they go back to the tanks and they keep flowing round. And that's so you can deliver hot water to a room almost instantly. You've only got the length of pipe from that riser into the room.
Yeah.
And if you imagine at home, if you start your shower up, you have to wait 30, 40 seconds before the water gets from wherever the source is, whether it's a boiler or whether it's a tank. If you imagine a hotel and the tanks are on the ceiling, up in the top, or they're underground in a basement, if you had to wait for that water to get from there to the room,
minutes.
It would be a long time. But we identified that they've got some issues with some of their risers. They weren't rotating because, again, as you said, the time it's taking for that hot water to be delivered was longer. So that was something which I didn't expect. We weren't expecting that to come back. We thought water, delivery would have been instant. So you'll start now looking not just at what you can do for the environment. Now you're looking at the chief engineer. You're looking at what can you do for the engineers. And way back, I spoke to a chief engineer of another hotel group, actually. And he said, could you tell me the temperatures going in and out of a room? Which got me thinking about putting on the sensors to the hot and cold. Yeah. He said, because we don't know if we've got a check valve issue. Now, that's a non-return valve. They have to put on the cold and the hot. So they don't know if they've got a leak back issue. They don't know if the cold's leaking back into the hot. Yeah. Until it's too late. So he was very keen on that element of it. He wanted to know whether the hot water temperature delivered into the room was the right temperature, because this leads on to a risk of Legionella. Okay. So then you've got a Legionella risk. So you're then monitoring temperatures, you're monitoring flow, dormancy. Yeah. You can't leave water at, it's got to be below 20 degrees or above 50. Yeah. Anything in between that, if you leave it in there long enough, a pathogen can grow and you can get Legionella issues. Yeah. So that's quite a big one. So we were looking at that. You're looking at that whole mapping. And the other thing that came out of this, we were looking at some of the abuse. Can I use abuse as the right word?
Of course you can. Of course you can.
It's quite notorious that people use the shower to steam their clothes. So they will hang the clothes along the rail, turn the shower on, shut the door, and forget about it. Yeah. So that can be any length of time. We've seen 300, 400 litres used in a single.
And it doesn't work.
Shower.
It doesn't work.
Well, the problem being, and I'm not sure whether people think a hotel's sort of miraculously different to a home. Yeah. But they've got two 1,400 litre hot water tanks at this particular hotel. So that's 2,800 litres total hot water in a roof space to deliver water to 152 rooms. Yeah. Well, if you got 5 or 6 rooms running 300 litres of water off, and we're mapping the water temperature, we can see the depletion of their hot water delivery temperatures. So you can see this depletion. And what's happening is the quicker you draw that hot water off, the tank's reducing, you're putting cold water in, so the water tank temperature's dropping, which exasperates the issue, because then your thermostatic valve is shutting down the cold, putting in more hot to maintain temperature. Yeah. So you get this compounding effect. And what we discovered was those people doing that were depriving other people of hot water. You actually had to people having to have cold showers. Yeah, yeah. So ethically, it shifted the issue, because what we've had from some really leading brands of hotels, they wanted to put this in. They wanted to put it into 2 hotels. They wanted to put it into 1 in Leeds. And the board said, we can't do this. We can't be the first, because we're monitoring this and we're going to interrupt with this. So they're on the sidelines watching us, as is a load of other hotels watching this trial. Sandman, having us seen, and we picked this up within 3 days of the system being live, but for them to say it's not ethical to restrict someone's water, it's really not ethical to have someone pay for a room and not deliver hot water to them.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're shifting that paradigm, you're shifting that behaviour to say, actually, as a institution, as a supplier to these people, you actually have a duty of care to everybody. So now they want to put the fade on. So we're literally only just starting to say, okay, we're going to introduce a fade time.
Yeah.
So on that floor, we're going to say, look, after X many minutes, we're going to fade the temperature. Now, it helps in multiple ways because the engineers are saying, if we can stop people steaming their clothes, and you go, have you got clothes steamers? And a GM said, well, no, but actually someone came down and asked me the other day. And I think, well, you've got to be a bit proactive on this because if you actually had some clothes steamers, and you put a note in a room to say, look, if you want to steam your clothes, contact reception, we'll lend you one for an hour. So you almost, you're setting that, we're doing that?
Yeah.
So you're actually making people aware that you actually know people are doing that for a start.
Yeah.
But the other thing, if they do that, and then you fade the temperature down to 35 degrees, it doesn't steam.
Yeah.
But also you're not depleting the hot water tank anymore.
For the other guests.
So it's always win-win. So you're sort of saying, well, our system doesn't measure the water.
Yeah.
We've actually got a means of you taking some control back of what people are doing within your building.
Yeah.
Because if they deplete your tanks, the amount of energy you have to put from your
to fill that back up,
to back it back up again, is huge. And we had a situation over the last couple of days where we could see all the temps dropping. So we, Paul contacts their engineers and said, your temps are dropping. Right, okay, get up in a plant room, have a look. One of the boilers tripped out.
Yeah.
So we knew their delivery temperature was way down. So one of those tanks, one of those boilers wasn't working.
Yeah.
So again, it's having this closed loop. It's sort of this system of not only just one thing, and this is something we've had to do to get the ROI, to get the return on investment, is to think, okay, we've got this in, we've got all these smart meters, we've got to rag the hell out of this. What else can we do? What else can we offer as a byproduct? Not just controlling a shower, because just doing that, it wouldn't justify the expense of putting the kit in.
Yeah.
But you start adding in all these other things, and all of a sudden you've got this rounded proposition where people like that would do that. And we need that. We need those paying customers, if you like, those hotels, because they can see all the benefits.
Yeah.
To then be able to adapt it and use it for housing and use it for even universities. They can't afford the same. They haven't got these transient guests who are paying for their nightly stays. They got students. They got restrictions on how much they can charge the students.
Yeah. So
they're under the cosh, basically. So you've got to have a segmented market. You've got to look at, what benefits you can
give. Yeah.
What would you charge for that? But it's like anything. Nothing works unless it pays for itself. And I think that's the other thing about this sustainability thing. It's having this fantastic idea of saying we're going to hit net zero by 2030 with no coherent plan how you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Without actually having a financial model to achieve that.
Yeah.
And everything else that goes along with that it's just nonsense. You're just making a statement.
Yeah.
But in an ideal world, be carbon neutral by 2030 or whatever it is. In reality, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Same thing about building,
building all these
millions of homes.
It's not going to happen.
It can't happen because it's not for the want of trying. It just can't happen. We haven't got the resource to do it.
I suppose as well though, for the hotels, if they can, I wouldn't be opposed to a hotel saying, right, by the way, we've limited your shower to 7 minutes. You can opt out of this by doing this.
Yeah.
But you're not saving the planet or you're not, etc. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I would probably actually quite like that because it shows that they're doing stuff. And then also on the back of that, if people aren't, I'd imagine in a hotel, I'm going to turn the shower on, then I'm going to go in the room. Hold on, the phone's rung.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a phone call, the shower's still running. I'd imagine that happens. That's the kind of thing I can see that happens. Yeah. And then at the end of someone's stay, without, I don't know, this is kind of just me in my head going mad. When they get their bill, they get a printout of how much water they used.
I think that's another model that you could use, especially on the more budget hotels, a bit like, Premier Inn or whatever like that, where you could go, your allocation is X. We're on this program. We've got this.
We're trying to save.
Yeah, this is our mantra. And the big problem they've got, these guys, is they're having to transition from gas to electric.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, for net zero. So they know their heating and water costs are going to go up through the roof.
Yeah.
So they've now got to work out how they're going to do that. And also, how are they going to control their peak demand, which is what we were talking about a minute ago. It's like saying, well, if everyone's abusing it during peak demand, so between 6 and 8 in the morning or whatever it is, whenever that high is, they've got to be able to supply that. And moving to heat pumps, moving to what we call more sustainable heating, electric is far more expensive than gas, but obviously you don't get the emissions. So they're caught between this rock and a hard place. They know they've got to do something. And it's really, in a way, I suppose, what we're seeing and the pain we're suffering at the moment is we're sort of in front of a curve.
Yeah.
So we've come up with a system, we've come up with something, we've put a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
But we're just ahead of a curve, which is a great place to be. It's a bit like anything. I was an analogy. Someone said I was at a do in London, and I can't remember what he was talking about. I think it was hockey and ice hockey. And the skill is to be where the puck's going to end up.
Yeah.
And that's really my hope, is that we've positioned ourselves in front of it. We've positioned ourselves, and we're going to develop it to a stage where, once that's delivered to us, once everyone wakes up to the fact that we've got to do something, we're already there. We've already got a solution.
Yeah.
And that's all the only thing we can hope, because otherwise all the hard work and all the pain and, the financial stress that is put on us, it's the only thing that eventually will be worthwhile. And it's not about the financial gain. I never did this, especially at my age. I didn't do it for the financial gain. I've got other businesses, and it was, I was winding down, but it would be nice
to leave a legacy.
It's a legacy part of it. I mean, even that I'm not overly bothered about, that side of it. But actually, to go, well, that was good. We did something right, Yeah. Doing the right thing.
I think you came up with an idea, and the difference between you and probably other people is they didn't push it through, and you're running with it. And you're running with it to your own, like you said before we started filming, like it's been a roller coaster of a ride, but you're doing it and you stuck it through.
Yeah, it's a massive roller coaster. I mean, I think anyone who's is on the entrepreneurial side of things, especially if you're sort of a neurodiversity like I am, you go from these massive highs and lows. It doesn't seem to be any middle ground. Yeah. You're either up or you're really down. Not down in depressive state, but that's sort of you to then motivate yourself to actually keep going and actually still believe in it.
Yeah.
Because you just keep hitting these walls and you hit these setbacks, or something goes wrong, or the system comes offline, or it drops down, or you fit this other problem you've got with the electronics. So there's always other things. Mechanical side of it, because of my background and because I'm an engineer and because I've got production out in China and we do stuff out there, I nailed that in months.
Yeah.
That wasn't a problem to me. The frustration to me is the electronic side of it. It's taken years longer.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that tech side.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that. And that was a naivety on my part.
Yeah.
That was it. I can run this project. I can get this out. Why can't you guys deliver? And then when you think about it, is no one's ever done this before. No one's ever,
There's not a model that you
It's
can
not
look
a model.
at.
No,
Yeah.
no. There's elements of it. Obviously putting data to the cloud. That's a simple thing, but it's having those metrics, that sort of temperature, time, and volume, and you put all those together, and then you got to try and break out what is what.
Yeah.
So it has been a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
Massive learning curve, and I've had to. My impatience of wanting to get it done and nail it, I've had to take a back seat. But also, what it's also done is the world's not ready for it.
Yeah.
The investors aren't ready for it. Water is notoriously bad for any investment. People won't invest in water. If you go to any VC or something and you talk about water, they go, I'm not interested, because the return of investment is so slow.
Yeah.
Because the cost of it is so slow.
Yeah.
It's a suppressed cost.
But at this point, is it not we need water, we need to do something?
Yeah, what they're doing, we were a bit, again, UK are lagging a little bit on this, but water rebates or water credits, actually the water saved, the value of the water saved is 10 times what the cost of it is being delivered. So especially with building around the southeast, Cambridge and all that, water neutrality, they can't build unless they can prove that we're not going to extract more water for those homes. Now, we know, and so does the local councils, and so does everyone else know, that's greenwashing, because they've got no means of reducing the used water in current properties and high users, with hotels or industry. So without the ability to reduce the use, so then you end up with a credit. So you end up with, we've saved, X many thousand litres.
Yeah.
Therefore, those credits can be sold to a developer to then develop. So it's almost a kickback. So you save on your bill, but you get money back from what you've saved. And until those dots are lined up and that system is in place, so that there is this real incentive for people to save.
Yeah.
And there's value added to that.
Yeah.
And also then you've also got something which you can truly measure and say, yes, we are neutral. And actually what we want to do is not become neutral. It's got to become the other way. We've got to start to reduce consumption. Yeah. So we're refilling our aquifers. So we're building up our water table. We're nowhere near as bad. I mean, you've got Beijing who's sinking. You've got Mexico City's sinking because they've extracted so much water out of the ground. It's actually going down.
Really?
Yeah. And China as a model, if you like, they've spent $85 billion on an overground sort of aquifer, if you want to call it that, to get water from southern China up to Beijing. So it's huge. If you want to Google that, it's massive.
Yeah.
And it's not widely talked about because I only know that through my contacts within China and the guys that are looking at setting up the China company. And I've got pictures of this thing, it's huge. And even it's going through regions which are prone to earthquake. So, but this is a massive overground reservoir, or it's not a reservoir, but it's pumping water from one end of the country up to the other. Now, you don't do that unless you've got a problem. And they've had lots of unrestricted boring holes. So that's how agriculture is done. They bore holes and they extract water from the ground. So they're extracting it from the aquifers. But the table's dropped so much, they can't get pumps powerful enough to get it out the ground. And when it is, it's so contaminated, they can't use it. So this is what's happening all over.
Wow.
And this stuff that you just don't think about. It's we're talking. I've got a meeting actually later on with a hotel group in Dubai. Dubai of using desalinated water. Okay, now and going back to our original question, why don't people worry? Because people look at it and they look at the earth and they look at all this water, and they go, "Well, we just desalinate it."
Yeah.
So they instantly think there's a technology solution for this. We don't have to worry because someone will come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And desalination, yes, it's going to play a part. But these plants are huge, but it makes that country very vulnerable because that is their source of water. So whether it's cyber attack, whether it's a disaster of an oil spill or something, and they can't desalinate, all of a sudden, they are in big trouble. So at the moment, Dubai are desalinating, they're pumping water back into the ground to refill their aquifers because they've depleted them so much. Because mass expansion, I mean, all these cities are growing massively. So they're having to pump water back into the ground. So it's not just going to actual use, they're putting it there as a reserve. And I think they've only got about 45 days of reserve. That's all they've got. So if something happened to their plants, so either be taken out by,
cyber attack,
or
anything.
Any future war will be over water. And the first thing now here, if you're reliant on anything like that, is those places.
Yeah.
I take them out. And that country will be on its knees in minutes. It wouldn't even take long.
Yeah.
No different to China with its water supply go out there. It's vulnerable. It makes them vulnerable. And it's all about, well, if you didn't use so much and you actually use the natural cycle and allowed it to replenish, you could say, so that's why we're saying these rebates or these credits are so important, because when you start looking at that and you start, say, these mega reservoirs they're looking at building, and how many billions of pounds they're going to cost, and how long? 10 years? It's too long. It's just no good.
Yeah.
It's a long-term plan for maybe something else, but that's not going to help us now.
No.
But also, if we got cut down 20% of our water use, because we're just thinking about it and using it differently, so not suffering at all.
No.
It's just indulgence.
Yeah.
If you can cut that down, all of a sudden, you've got that additional money that they could use. And I agree with what you've put up before, is that there needs to be mass regulation. There needs to be much better measurement of what those companies have got to achieve before they start paying out dividends, before they start using that money for anywhere else. They've got to hit and achieve true, measurable sort of milestones. Yeah. And actually do it. Not talk about it, but do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and not have roads leaking for 6 years in the same place. Water leak.
Again, I don't want to get into this, and there's probably companies out there who are already doing this.
Yeah.
We can measure all the water in a building, yeah? There's nothing stopping anyone putting similar sort of devices, or they'd be a lot bigger, and they could be working purely off of it don't have to be into the water system, they could be on it, but they could be a bit more sophisticated. If you put these measuring devices, these metering, at periods down any feed of water, and you had this around the country, so all of a sudden you've got this mapping of water flow. You know the volume of water passing one. If the volume coming out of the other one is less, you know where the leak is.
Yeah.
It doesn't take rocket science to work out how they could use AI. It's not really AI because you're not actually trying to invent anything. All you're doing is monitoring and analysing flow patterns. Yeah. And it's simple. X equals Y. And if it doesn't, we've got a problem there. And it wouldn't take them that long to roll out that sort of stuff. It's got to be doable. Yeah. And that's what we need. We need that sort of infrastructure as well, so they can pinpoint and know exactly where to send their team. All right, it might be a mile length or whatever. However, they station these devices, but I can see that being definitely a way to go, and probably someone's working on that. I hope they are. Yeah. But, they should be able to, smart cities or smart countries, we've got the technology. Yeah. Employ it and do it, because you'll save an awful lot of money, an awful lot of time. Yeah,
it's I don't want to. Obviously, we've covered quite a lot of the stuff here just organically, and like we just spoke about the mega reservoirs and stuff that are going to take. I mean, the Havant Thicket, 8.7 billion litres, 21 million litres a day, and they're years and years and billions of pounds away. But something as not as simple as ShowerKAP. I'm not saying ShowerKAP's simple, but what I'm saying is a simple resolution to trying to reduce, like you said, you basically saved 30% on your water use in your home.
Yeah.
If everybody did that,
No, the landscape changes overnight. But we can't, like I was saying, to scale what we're doing, but somehow in conjunction with it being in certain places. So if it touches someone, or it touches a family member who can then go back and go, oh, don't do that. Do you realise? It's really opening up this awareness. It's this, think about it. Don't just do it, think about it.
yeah,
But if we can do that, behavioural change can make a difference overnight.
yeah,
But it's how do you get mass behavioural change? And I think that's
education.
That's the big one. Yeah, hopefully, but it's difficult because, again, as I said to you earlier on, you adapt to your environment. So you might know it, but when you stand in that shower, especially as a youngster, and you zone out, you start thinking about all these airy-fairy stuff, whatever they're going on about or whatever they're doing, and all of a sudden 20 minutes, half an hour's gone by.
Yeah.
It's you do need that sensory nudge. You need something a little bit extra, which is where I came up with what I did. But yeah, ideally, it should be in every home.
Yeah.
It should be everywhere. We should be measuring stuff in every home. But then that model becomes more difficult because ours is a HaaS model. Actually, we're not actually selling the hardware. We're putting it as a service. So there is a cost up front, but the kit would always be owned by us, which means it's got a lifetime warranty. It never runs out.
Yeah.
And then there's a subscription. So this is how you got a subscription service. So you can maintain it, you can deliver that service. When it gets to domestic, that becomes a little bit more difficult because, as I said, what you're offering a big institution, a big building, all these layers and layers and layers of advantages. All of a sudden, when you come down to domestic, it's a much smaller thing. So, as a company, we need the success of a business model from doing larger things to then afford to do B2C sales or doing to developers or doing to whatever. So you're going to drop. It's going to be a completely different financial model to do that.
Yeah.
And the unit, the way it talks, it won't be meshing like ours are. It'll be talking directly. They might have a Bluetooth thing that it could adjust it. It won't be as sophisticated.
Yeah.
But it will still be doing the same thing. Yeah. So that is a future evolution of what we're doing. And the more successful the business, the quicker we can get to that because it's needed.
So if you was to put it in a residential property, for example, what would you do? Would you retrofit or would you fit it to the feeds into each bathroom?
It depends on the size of a house and what's available. If you're in a flat or if you're in a smaller property, even a property like yours, if you've got one bathroom or even if you've got one bathroom, downstairs toilet or whatever, it could go in the air and cold or it could come off a combi. So you'd put it off of that.
Yeah.
And then you'd have the cold total water in you could put. So really, generally in an airing cupboard would be the ideal place, or say straight off a combi boiler, you could use it there. And that would be doing the whole house. So yes, you could put this into a normal home. We would detect whether it was a shower because you set that in the parameters. So you know the flow output of a shower. And if it goes over a certain length of time, you go, right, that is a shower. Yep. So you can distinguish that between that and a bath. The bath will run at a higher flow rate. So we can take the fade off. Yeah. Go, no, this is a bath.
This is fun.
And you move on from there. The next evolution we're just working on at the moment is to put shut-off valves in. So electronic shut-off valves to the hot and cold. So again, in a hotel scenario, they can set a literage, and if it goes over that and it's running a bath, it would turn the water off because
flooding, overflowing.
Premier Inn brought this up as could you do this? Because they have a lot of issues. And funny enough, not it wasn't funny, but Sandman, one of their guests, decided to run a bath and then to go outside for a cigarette. So 450 litres later, it took out that bathroom and the one below.
Yeah.
So it was already on our radar, and it's something we will put in. So there are companies out there that do leak detection and all this sort of stuff. But if we can monitor and we can go, right, if we
all
hit...
in the same...
All in the same thing. So the same box is sending, we just put a couple of 12-volt electronic shut-off valves, which link back to our box, which we're already working on. So during the next year, we will evolve those, we'll develop those, and they could be retrofitted. Yeah. Even if someone's got a system in, they could then put them in. Yeah. And we had a scenario, and I think it was 2 days ago. It was 2 days ago. One shower ran for just under 2 hours. 960 litres.
Jesus Christ.
So it happens. Now, whether someone, as you rightly said, turned the shower on, probably got a phone call, went outside to take the phone call and just forgot about it. Yeah. Went down to breakfast and forgot about it. But that was nearly 1,000 litres of water. Now, with our system, we're just perfecting our alert. We all send an alert by email to the hotel, and they would have to send someone up to actually check.
So someone could have slipped.
Someone could have had a heart attack. I mean, God has had guests have had heart attacks. We've had guests, you could have someone laying in the shower, unconscious. Yeah. So you're right. You don't know, but if you can detect it,
you can at least be aware of it,
you can intervene. But if we shut that water off, but also send the alert, then it stops any more damage, either to the property or to the environment or whatever. Yeah. But also then you can go and find out what the problem was, and we got a little feedback on it. So we to resolve an alert, they can select a reason or can-free type. So we want to start learning about behaviour. We want to start learning about what these events are. Yeah. And that's the only time we're going to start probably using some sort of machine learning or AI is to analyse behaviour traits. Yeah. So we can put out different nudges, different things to say, and see what works with different people. But there's a lot that can expand out of this, and there's a lot that's got.
I mean, and that's incredible. I mean, even people in the houses, if you put it on the boiler feed on a combi, most of the stuff feeds from it. If you go on holiday, how many people? I mean, I know people that have been on holiday and something's gone while they're on holiday, and it can ruin a house. Yeah. Whereas if you've got a clever valve that's saying, right, something's been running here for longer than it normally would, let's shut it off and alert them first, and then they can say, right, shut it off. Yeah. From that, I think that's genius.
I mean, those systems out there do that at the moment. Yeah. There are systems out there where we'll do, a lot of insurance companies are putting these out. Okay. So you can get these shut-offs, these valves that will shut off. But what I'm saying on our system, because that can be an add-on, it makes it a more rounded system. So what we're doing is trying to cover off this stuff. And our system isn't right for every occasion. We can't do everything. No. But there are other systems out there which can. And I think I speak to a lot of people within the water industry now, and you're going, I'm not worried about our competition. I really aren't, because if you look at the scale of the market, the hotel rooms, 17 odd million globally, 8.2 I think it is now under the Hospitality Alliance, million rooms. Now that's just those hotels. That's before you get to managed building, residential. Yeah. We're never going to be able to saturate that many. No. So we need other people doing other things, which it wouldn't be cost effective to put our system in certain buildings. We went and our team went and looked at Mid Sussex District Council because they were interested, and their structure isn't right for us. Yeah, but they might be right for one of, I wouldn't say our competitors, but our compatriots. Someone else who does a system which is just total water in and has got a shut-off valve on it. Yeah, and is sending some form of monitoring that would work.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately everybody's got to get their grown-up
Big boy
trousers
pants on.
big boy pants on.
Yeah.
Sit down and go, look, you guys are really good at that. If we come across someone and says, can you put us in? I go, no, it's not right for us, but I can put you on someone who can do it. Because it doesn't matter who does it.
It's being done.
It's being done.
Yeah.
We've got to make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to do something.
Yeah. We're going to wrap this up, but there's a couple of things that I'd like to finish on. What is the one thing you wish that every single household in the UK truly understood about their water usage? Obviously, we've covered a lot of this over the last hour and a bit, but if there was one thing that you wish everybody actually understood?
I think I go back to the immediate and something which is quite prominent at the moment, which is sewage spills and all that sort of stuff. I think if, irrespective of whether you feel you can afford your water or whether you're entitled to your water, I think it's the understanding is that you've got to understand that is contributing to another problem, which is very immediate, which is this sort of sewage side of things. It's really hard because without anything in, like we've got now, to let your younger members of your family know, or anybody else, as I said, it's really difficult because it's habit, and it's really hard. You know, people will bang on a door, but you can only bang on a door if you're there.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not great for people. But if they can understand, I think, how much water is used in a shower, because it goes down a plug hole, you don't see it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you fill a bath up, you've got some visual
That
concept of how much is in there. But actually, when you're running a shower, to think even a moderate flow rate, 10 minutes is 100 litres of water. So that's effectively your normal sort of half full, third full bath.
Yeah.
That correlation maybe would be, I didn't realise that. And I've had that a lot where people go, what, a shower uses more than a bath? Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's using more than you use in a bath. Yeah, you can lay in a bath for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to chillax, have a bath.
Yeah.
If you've got one. But if not, you know, you've got to realise that basically, if you're spending that long in a shower, it's indulgent.
Yeah.
And it's having an impact on the environment. Yeah. And on your costs. It's not the water cost, it's the heating of that water.
It's the heating of the cost, yeah, of course. Yeah. So for someone listening who wants to live a bit more mindfully about their water consumption, where can they start? What can they start to do?
I think really that is it. It's we've got a number of we've got quite a lot of investors actually. A lot of family and friends and associates have invested in ShowerKAP, and it's quite strange that they haven't got any of our kit in.
No,
but they're already changing their behaviour at home because they're aware.
Yeah,
because they're seeing the posts, they're seeing the things that are coming out, and we're trying not to make it too doom and gloom. You know, there's too much bad press out there at the moment. You're trying to keep it as light as possible.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if people just a little bit more aware. And I think that goes across everything, doesn't it? It's like when you're buying your food shop, don't overbuy because it's only going to end up in a bin.
Yeah. You
know, we don't need that. It ends up, you know,
And that's a very similar situation to water. Don't overindulge because it's only ending up in a bin.
It's exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's this adage, it goes back into the cycle, which is why I'm saying about, think about what it's doing when it's overfilling and it then's going into the rivers, it's going into the seas. You don't moan about the state of, you know, the seas and the rivers. You've got to think back to actually, can I make a difference?
Yeah.
And you can, because our systems are overrun. They can't cope. So this is what I was saying about these mega, you know, reservoirs. It's all very well. What's going to happen to our water?
When it's
what
done.
are they doing about, marrying that up to treatment plants,
Yeah.
always are going to pump more and more sewage in the sea. Horrible statistic globally, but 80% of sewage ends up in the sea untreated. Globally, 80%.
Wow. That's incredible.
And most of it is from countries that don't have treatment plants.
Yeah.
But we're as guilty. So there is this knock-on that people don't associate water with. And even, countries that have got an abundance of water,
Yeah.
when they're building these mega cities, whether it's Toronto or wherever you've got a metropolis of people, you've got to deal with the waste. And that is, I don't care if you've got lakes and whatever, you stop using as much. The quickest way we can change the planet, the quickest way we can become sustainable is to think about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's not just water, that's everything. So think about, do we really want to go and do that? Do we really have to drive down the road? Do we really have to buy those, new clothes or whatever? Yeah. Whatever it is, we don't need to do it. And
be a bit more mindful.
Just be a bit more mindful and repair stuff rather than just bin it, because, throwaway society is, and water's the same. We're throwing it away. We're wasting it.
Wicked. Well, thank you very much, Steve. That's been extremely enlightening. I've learned a lot from that. Just finally, if people want to find out more about ShowerKAP and how they can either be involved or just to learn about it, what's the best way to do that?
We're on social. We're on LinkedIn. It's our main platform. Yeah. We're on Insta as well. But yeah, have a look. Check us out. It's ShowerKAP with a K, not a C. I'm dyslexic. That's a good way of doing it.
And what I'll do is I'll link the LinkedIn page and I'll link the website in the show notes for this. And yeah, if that's been interesting, please let us know. And if you've got any questions for Steve, then get in touch with ShowerKAP and the team will help you out. Again, thank you very much, Steve.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming in. That's been wicked.
Yeah, been good. Thank you.